I realised very early on that my confidence was entirely related to my technical skills, and that once I actually faced it, solved it and learned, then my confidence levels grew kind of exponentially, really, and I went into shoots confident.
Welcome to the SheClicks Women in Photography podcast. I'm Angela Nicholson, and I'm the founder of SheClicks, which is a community for female photographers. In these podcasts, I talk with women in the photographic industry to hear about their experiences, what drives them, and how they got to where they are now. In this episode, Sony imaging ambassador Kate Kirkman returns to our podcast studio. Although best known for her wedding work, Kate is a multi-talented photographer who also shoots portraits, boudoir and food. In more recent times, Kate has also turned her hand to videography. Hi Kate, welcome back to the SheClicks Women in Photography podcast. It's great to see you again.
Hi, Ange, it's lovely to be here.
Thank you. Now, your first podcast went out in October 2023, and quite a lot of stuff's been going on with you since then. So do you want to update us on what's been happening?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a fairly major relocation, which is still surprising a lot of people, but we made the decision during the pandemic to move to Cornwall.
Nice.
But had to wait for a couple of years in terms of kids' education and everything. So we finally made the move in September 23 and are now in our own home. And yeah, so it's actually almost been bigger than I thought it would be.
What, the move or the house?
Oh, no, definitely not the house, no. The move, I think just the impact of, it's only 5 hours or 4.5 hours, but it affects everything, your personal life, your work life. No regrets, absolutely love it. But it just feels like it was quite a lot.
Yeah. And are you still working with all the same venues that you worked with before? Because some of them were local to where you used to live.
Yes. And in fact, that was kind of absolutely necessary, I guess, in terms of having a safety net. Because obviously when you move a photography business, you worry. So we knew we had a full wedding schedule for 2024. But you're right, that was still largely up in central England, London and the kind of home counties. So luckily Brent doesn't mind driving because we've been doing an awful lot of it. But it's fine. You actually shoot less than everything else, for a wedding business.
Okay.
So the amount of time you're actually out shooting is not as much as people might think. So we're on the road a lot.
Oh, got you. Yeah.
Yeah, so actually it is doable. It's absolutely doable. But I think my focus for 25 is to build the business down here. And you might ask, why on earth weren't you doing that last year? And honestly, it's because we were just so busy that I didn't. And also we've got a lot of weddings still in 2025 up north. But yeah, that is definitely something I need to get cracking on, is to try and find some more local venues.
Yeah. But you've done destination weddings as well, haven't you, in the past? Are you still doing those? Even more travelling?
No, I think it's an interesting one. I think we're less drawn to the supposed glamour of a destination wedding. And yeah, we've shot some amazing ones, but I'm less... I understand now that you really don't get to see the destination very much. We can't because we've still got commitments back home. So you might get a day either side, but it's not always worth the hassle. So no, we're definitely at the stage in our businesses where we just want good, safe weddings that we can rely on.
And are you still doing all the range of genres? Because you don't just do weddings, do you?
No, not at all. Interestingly, I think financially the one that's kept going the most has obviously been weddings. And my boudoir business, I actually changed it so that it wasn't just under Kate Smith. I launched the Muse brand and brought on 2 other women, and I trained them up. And one shoots where in the area I used to shoot, and I've got Gemma in Salisbury, and that's uber busy. And so they have kept Muse going very much, and the house here is now ready. And yeah, I'm taking bookings, and people are actually flying down from London to Newquay. So again, I haven't even started promoting locally. I'm still getting business from London. So yeah, the boudoir business is still kind of booming. And we have put quite a lot of focus actually locally into the more commercial side of things, so food and portraiture, and that's what we're really focusing on down here.
Okay, so people are coming down to you for that, or are you shooting with local companies, businesses?
So local businesses, one thing we've really loved about moving down here is there's a huge sense of community, and we've been doing loads of small business networking, which we've really enjoyed, met great people, and actually Brent starts lecturing at Falmouth University in a couple of weeks' time on video and moving image.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and so we're really trying to foster an easier way for students to gain creative experience with local businesses, and that's a big part of what we're doing down here, and we're really loving it.
A lot of the business down there is based around tourism, so and people involved in tourism really understand the importance of marketing and having great images and video. So I guess, from that point of view, it's quite a good business move.
Yeah, and there's often water-based in some way. A lot of the hotels down here are on the coast, or sports brands that work with water. So we're managing to incorporate finally that huge element of what we love doing in our downtime. But you're right. I think certainly tourism business, the bigger brands understand the importance. But we do find a lot of small business desperately need great content, but either can't afford it or don't put it as a priority spend. And that's how we're trying to involve Falmouth and students. We're trying to bring these two worlds together to help students get experience and to help small businesses get better content. So that's a real focus for us, because there's a lot of people down here that need better content that have not been getting it to date.
Well, it's a really nice opportunity to give back, but also when you do that kind of thing, that education goes upwards as well as at the level you're teaching, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's honestly, we realise now we really didn't have a brilliant sense of local community where we lived, which was in Bucks. And yeah, it's totally different down here. People are very passionate about where they live, very passionate about sustainability. And yeah, it's actually a really lovely, unexpected part of the move.
Oh, good. And the boudoir business, I mean, when you said, people are flying down here, I immediately thought, what a genius move, because what a nice way to spend a weekend, maybe do a bit of surfing or something. Maybe have the boudoir shoot before the surfing, I would say.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Yeah, but no, I mean, it's brilliant, and actually it's so quick. It's less than an hour in the air from Gatwick. And yeah, people are coming down and asking me for recommendations about nice places to stay, and they're making a weekend of it. So you're right, it really is, and I just didn't know, and I didn't have necessarily high expectations for whether it would continue down here, but so far so good.
Nice. Now I know, Brent is a videographer. You've been shooting more video recently too. What led you to start making that move?
It was demand, and I honestly got that one wrong, because Brent early on was the one that said it's so important that we evolve and develop this side of the business, and I didn't see it. I mean, we're now talking, 8 years ago, but it's we probably shoot more video now than we do photography. And really that's what we said to Falmouth, because we spoke to the tutor that leads the commercial degree course, and up to now they haven't involved video, and we just said, it's honestly, that's not okay. It's essential. And so we shoot video across everything, all genres, including boudoir actually, but more on the marketing promotional side than for clients.
So it was purely a business move, or did you want to move in that direction as well creatively?
I think Brent absolutely wanted to go that way. He's always had a greater interest in moving image. And for me, it was about business, but I love it. And I love it for different reasons. And I get asked quite a lot which I prefer. And I love filming. I don't do the editing, Brent does. And so I think it's very easy for me to say that I love it for that reason. And he doesn't do any of the photography editing. I do all of that. So I am very aware of how much time and skill is needed for video editing. And also, if you start incorporating audio, then you're going to a whole new level of complexity. And so I don't think that's for everybody.
Yeah. Whenever I've edited video, there always seems to be an edit that you can make tighter. You know, you keep going back. You start off, you've got an hour of footage and you get it down to 5 minutes. And then you could easily get it down to 4. And then before you know it, you've got a 2-minute video. Just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But to get a 2-minute video that holds attention is harder than people might imagine, because you've got like 5 seconds of someone's time these days. It's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you enjoy it creatively, or do you find it, you know, is it a slog actually filming?
No, I love it. I actually think it's much easier to explore stories and emotion through video. Much easier. It's more forgiving. Yeah, people can come in and out of focus on video, and people go, "Oh, that's nice," but you know, you miss a frame in a still, and it hits the bin. So it's definitely easier to, I think, work with humans and video.
But if you're doing a wedding, does it require a lot more planning to get the video?
Yeah, because we're really multi-cam at our weddings. We might have 4 or 5 different cameras running, and it's obviously more complex in terms of lighting and telling a story. It's like telling a story already. You can't miss bits, but there's a lot to think about. It's much easier if you're not taking audio, but when you're taking an audio feed, it's just a bit scary at times. And weddings are scary anyway, so we're just adding a whole another level of stress.
Yeah.
We really are. Honestly, that it makes a stressful event more stressful.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people realise the significance of using a mic until they start using a mic. You know?
And, you know, honestly, when we speak to clients, you know, we offer people just what we'd call the wedding highlights, so set to licensed music.
Yeah.
Or we can obviously take audio for, say, speeches or ceremony. And, you know, some make that decision, and it's always based on budget, which I understand, to not have the audio. And we are very clear why, because it's not so much about the recording of the day, it's all the post-production work. But we've had clients, you know, brides come back and say, "Oh, I know I didn't book that package, but can we have the speeches audio?" You know, trying to explain to them that, well, we have it on the base camera bodies, but it's rubbish.
Yeah.
And it's that understanding afterwards. But you're absolutely right. Until you've had to take audio feeds, you don't understand how hard it is.
So what's getting you excited about photography and video these days?
Oh, that's a good question, because I think just staying relevant for everybody is, you know, something that people spend a lot of time thinking about. And for us, you know, we're really lucky that we get to work with Sony, because we do get our hands on new kit. And actually just before Christmas, you get these magic calls when they're all NDA'd up. But, you know, we got the new A1 and the new lenses, and you get them for like 3 days.
Yeah.
But that was honestly magic, just to use the kind of best kit that comes onto the market. And, you know, the new kind of 28-70, the new Sony, it's probably the first time I've got thoroughly excited about a lens. Because often, you know, photographers, it's something to do with the formats or whatever the new camera body's delivering, which was incredible. But this time, both Brent and I really were blown away by lens. And that's just really nice.
Yeah. I've used it as well. And the difference between f2 and 2.8 is much bigger than it sounds, isn't it?
I don't know, it's huge in terms of light, isn't it? And speed and...
Yeah.
And we were obviously slightly concerned about just losing, you know, that focal length slightly, but really didn't notice it. It was incredible. But, you know, also working at the 120 FPS in terms of 4K, because we were lucky, and we got to put all this content out because we did it just before Christmas, but we found the most amazing shipwreck in Cornwall. And we went down, and it was really hairy. It was full on storm offshore, so the winds were hectic. It was a bit dangerous, if I'm honest. But you couldn't really have got any better conditions in terms of sea and light. And we were seeing the 120 frames and the slow-mo on the water. It's just incredible. And actually, you see better than humans see.
Yeah.
And when you're slowing it all down, it was quite mesmerizing. So, yeah, it was really lovely to sit back here after shooting and genuinely love seeing the content and just getting excited again. And I think that's it. That got both of us excited.
Oh, nice. So you're going to the photography and video show at the XL in March.
Yeah.
March the 8th to the 11th, isn't it? So
That's it.
what have you got planned?
So we're there all 4 days.
Me too.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, we'll see you. We're there with Sony and they obviously wanting us to be on the stand. I think we're talking about a lot of hybrid, which is for Brent and I, that's how we describe ourselves now. It's 100%. We're shooting both video and photography, taking stills out of video. So we're talking about that. But actually, I know that Sony are keen to release us to maybe come and spend some time with SheClicks. So
fantastic.
We need to talk about that. But yeah, whether we come over to the stand or organise something.
Yeah.
I like talking at the show, doing the talks, but actually more than anything, it's quite nice to sit down with photographers and videographers and try and give back. So if we can make something work, that would be amazing.
That sounds fantastic. Please excuse this interruption. This podcast is supported by Sony, maker of class-leading camera equipment and cutting-edge technologies like the global shutter in the Alpha 9 III, which won the SheClicks 2024 Award for Innovation. Okay, let's get back to the show. Thank you. Well, that's probably a really good time to go to 6 from SheClicks.
Right.
I got 10 questions from SheClickers.
Okay.
And I would like you to answer 6 of them, please. You've done this before.
I have.
They're all different questions. So could you pick numbers from 1 to 10? 6 numbers. So let's start with your first number, please.
Right. Let's go for number 1.
Number 1. Okay. Right. This is a question that was asked by quite a lot of people, actually. If you could give your younger self some advice, what would it be? And that could be careers advice. It could be technical advice. It could be something broader like marry a videographer. Who knows? But several people asked that.
Yeah, I have been asked that before.
Mm-hmm.
I think my answer might be slightly different now. I think what I would say to my younger self is, do you fully understand the pros and cons of being self-employed whilst raising a small family? Because and in many ways there may be more cons than there are pros, and I'll give you some kind of some of those pointers now. And I'm going to start with the cons just because, let's go hard.
Okay. Break it to us.
It's not that I'm saying don't do it. I'm now 15 years in business. It's more, are you fully aware of all of it before you make that decision? And then one of the most obvious ones is obviously the weekend and evening work. You do, certainly as a wedding photographer, kind of lose your summers. And that is partly why Brent and I are now living in Cornwall, crazily. It's because we will go to the beach on a Tuesday evening, a Wednesday evening, a Thursday. We now have our summer in a weird way, but at least we have one, because really we didn't. And I just think that if you're trying to raise a young family as well, you've really got to think about all of that, missing kids stuff at weekends, kids clubs, all that kind of thing. Definitely the work-life blur is hard, the lack of switching off, and definitely for Brent and I, having an office that is not in the house has been critical. So we've just built another garden office here. Big investment, but one that we know was really important. So I think that, you need some separation. Obviously, income is unpredictable. And I think there are quiet, this is a bad month in terms of income for us. But then, there are other months where, it's the opposite. So I think you just have to be aware of the changes across the year. Obvious stuff like limited benefits, sick pay, all that kind of thing. You've just got to make sure that you have thought about it.
Yeah.
Managing a business, I did it all on my own at first, and that is almost impossible, but the software and everything makes that easier these days. But I think the amount of time you spend running a business is huge. So I think just if you're not interested, maybe think again, because you've really got to do it all somehow, and that there are ways to manage that. And then I think we've already touched on it. This pressure to stay relevant is hard, but actually I would say think about who you're staying relevant for, whether it's your peers in the industry or whether it's actually your clients, because they're very different expectations of what relevant means. So those are some of the negatives.
Okay.
There were many positives, and I think the reverse of me saying you can lose your summers is actually, ironically, you do have flexibility in your schedule, because we do take a Monday off, or if we suddenly decide we're not going to get to the office till midday,
Yeah,
or we're going to work till midnight, then we do that. That's easy as your kids get older.
yeah,
Or probably you might be slightly reliant on your partner being able to fill in the gaps for you. There's definitely this wonderful element of pursuing a passion, which is probably, or turning a passion into a business. I think there's good and bad sides to that, but definitely I feel like I've done that in my life. And again, the flip side of the unstable or unstable income is there is no ceiling on said income. So if you work hard and you do well and you're successful, you can earn really well from it. I think it's just about managing the peaks and the troughs of all of that.
yeah.
I think it's I have a really varied work life. We never, honestly, one week to next, we don't know what we're shooting, and we constantly get lovely surprises. We're off to Barcelona with Sony Europe in March, just after the show, to go and train the Nordic, the Scandinavians in video, and only found out just before Christmas, and that's great. And I think a really important one for me has been setting an example for my kids about hard work and what you can get back, and the fact that running your own business is an option. And resilience, and just teaching the resilience. And I think there's a lot of brilliant life lessons in there. And so, I hope that hasn't come across as negative. I just, I don't think I thought about all of that when I started out.
I think when you're starting out, it's very hard to take on board some of those negative messages, because you think, I love photography.
Yeah.
It's going to be brilliant. I'm going to get some great clients. It's all going to be fine. And then suddenly, like you say, you are responsible for everything. So you are doing the marketing.
Yeah.
You're also emptying the bins and, doing all of those sort of stuff and making sure the batteries are charged. So there are a lot of things to consider. But if you have that passion and you are interested in the technicalities and the kit, then that helps you stay relevant as well, because you stay interested in developments, don't you?
Definitely. I think that's really important. You've got to keep learning.
Okay. I thought that you might say that the advice you would have given yourself is to learn about flash, because I remember you said you used to say you were a natural or an ambient light photographer, and then you learned flash and it was like a revelation. So I thought you might say that, but was that what you used to say?
Well, but yeah, and I think that depending on, I don't know what questions you're going to throw at me, but normally questions come up around technical know-how and confidence, and that's where I will talk about it, because I still think it's absolutely critical. But actually that is just one part of it, and what I've tried to give in that answer is a sense of, have you really thought about all the pros and all the cons of running your own business?
Yeah. Okay. Write a list, maybe.
Yeah.
Be prepared to make it a long one.
It was quite a long answer. Sorry, it wouldn't all be that long.
That's all right. No. So could I have your second number, please?
Let's go 4.
How do you navigate imposter syndrome, especially in an industry where self-promotion is important, yet can also be daunting? That question's from Prue.
Okay, Prue. So I think imposter syndrome is rife across all businesses and all industries, not even just for creators. So I think the first thing for everybody to think is that those feelings are normal, and also that it is a feeling. I think it's really important for people to actually understand that. Also, it's, who are you comparing yourself against? And is it a fair comparison? So let's say you're comparing yourself to peers. Let's say within SheClicks community, you're seeing somebody else's work, or is that a fair comparison? Have you been, doing this thing, this beautiful craft of photography for as long? Have you done your 10,000 hours? Are you being fair to yourself? Because I think a lot of imposter syndrome comes from unfair comparisons. So I really think it's very important to just take stock for a second and work out if you're making yourself feel a certain way unnecessarily. And then I think this comes back to confidence, because once you try to analyze why you're feeling like this, if it is coming down to a lack of confidence, which often imposter syndrome does, then can that be in any way solved by addressing the problem? So let's say you've been tasked with standing up and giving a presentation. Then you need to try and understand what's worrying you about that process. And if it is about your technical skills, so this is exactly coming to what we've just discussed, then for me, I realized very early on that my confidence was entirely related to my technical skills. And that once I actually faced it, solved it and learned, then my confidence levels grew kind of exponentially, really. And I went into Shoot's confidence. So I think that try to differentiate between a feeling and whether you're unfairly comparing yourself versus, is there something you need to address in your learning? And if there is, honestly, just get on with it and get it solved, because it will make a big difference.
Yeah. There is a tendency, I think, when there is something like that, where you think, oh, it's going to be really hard, I don't really understand it. There's a lot of that. But once you actually start it, it's such a relief. It doesn't seem so bad, and you kind of plow through it. And then the feeling when you have achieved, say, if it is learning Flash, for example, and you take a picture with Flash and you think, actually, that's pretty good. That's so nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it makes all... the wedding that Brent and I shot on, it was for a friend, but still, it was one of the hardest I've ever done. It was just but we used Flash from the prep of the wedding through to and she had a Hindu blessing the day after. The light was just absolutely shocking in London for 2 days, and you are constantly thinking it is a bit of a brain drain, Flash, but you can always solve it, always. And that's the thing, it is just like a maths equation without being maths. It's just, you can just try things, and there's always an answer. So I think you're absolutely right. Until you understand what the parameters are, it's always going to feel deeply confusing and impossible. But once you understand the parameters, you'll be fine.
Okay.
Oh, and back to the self-promotion thing. That one's a really interesting one, because honest to God, I think try to work out the self-promotion that works for you rather than what you see on social media. Because I realized very early on, I find the whole thing deeply distasteful and it's not for me. Therefore, I don't really do it. And I know that I've worked out what my clients need and what they need to see in order to have the confidence to book me, rather than me constantly talking on social media. So I think there'll be a solution that's right for everybody, and they've just got to try and find what that looks like.
Yeah. I remember a few years ago, everyone was saying, oh, you definitely need to have an Instagram account. You definitely need to have a Facebook account. In fact, you don't need a website. You just need Facebook. And now I feel like there are so many social media outlets that a website seems to be even more important, because actually, even if you've got all of those platforms, you're doing something on all of those platforms, your website has the links to them all, and it's got everything. So it's a hub that just seems more important to me now.
Yeah, I agree. And also, you're never going to hold anyone's attention for very long on any of these other platforms. And I think you're right. And I think they need to be appointed into somewhere that people could spend a bit more time getting to know you and your work. Yeah, I mean, you're going to get different answers from everyone on this. I'm not a big self-promoter. So, and it's not stopped me running successful businesses.
Okay. Right. Can I have your third number, please?
5.
Okay. How difficult was it to become a preferred supplier for Ashridge or any other venue for that matter? That question's from Mariange.
Good question. For our wedding business, it was very important. I would say there's been 2 main sources of work. One is word of mouth, but that obviously takes time. And the other has been venues. And actually, those venues have changed over the 15 years. So at one stage, Blenheim Palace was critical to us, and Ashridge still is and remains our most important venue, although there are others. But how hard is it to get in? It's hard. The first wedding is tough. And actually, I would say probably I got the first weddings through my relationships with other industry suppliers. So that might be a florist or a wedding planner. So I've always said, and I always will say, try to build really strong relationships within your local circle of other small businesses. So, and then once you've got that first wedding, do the best you possibly can, but then try and build really good relationships with the team who run the weddings. And the problem is there tends to be a high turnover. So I think a lot of people have probably found this. They've built a great relationship with the wedding coordinator and suddenly they're gone.
Right.
Yeah, it can be really frustrating, but just just always be aware that all these venues need great content. And be prepared to, in essence, give your time for free. I've always done it. I still don't mind doing it if I think I'm going to get a long-term relationship or return from it. So, just to kind of sum that up, I would say, yes, it's very important. Work hard at trying to build those relationships, and it hopefully will bear fruit for you.
Okay. Your fourth number, please.
7.
How do you balance the need for time with the couple for pose shots with other demands on them during the day? Do you just have one session with them or do you have several shorter sessions? That question's from Liz.
Okay, Liz, I would say that the answer to that will come down to your style. If you present yourself and your brand as being a lot about kind of beautiful couple portraiture rather than, say, photojournalism or candids, then you stand very strong by that, because if you don't carve out that time, you are not delivering to your promise, your brand promise. So as a result of that being a major part of what we do, I insist on finalising the schedule with the bride and groom. I spend quite a lot of time with my couples in advance of a wedding just going through schedules, because often I am given timelines and I am not afraid to question them and actually just say, I can't deliver what you want based on this. And we're not prima donna-ish about it. We're just saying, I can't do it. We tend to say we need 45 minutes in all. Now, I don't necessarily need that in one go. And certainly in the summer, I would like to split it up to somewhere in the drinks reception to Golden Hour. But, and I've been caught up before, you must make sure you get all the safe stuff in your first session with them, because you can lose the light. In this country, the weather changes so fast, and all speeches just overrun, and you're standing there watching, the sun go down outside. So it is a risk to split your time. Always make sure you have got enough before you make that commitment. But for us, it needs to be about 45 minutes. I don't always get it, but they do know if I don't get the 45 minutes that they can't expect miracles.
Do you actually have that in your contract? If you decide that you want to spend more time with your guests than photographing, then things will change.
Yeah, I just say that, we have an understanding of the time that we need, and if that gets affected by the schedule of running late of the schedule, then that will have an impact on the deliverables.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. All right, so your penultimate number, please.
I would say 8.
Okay. How do you balance the technical mastery required in photography with the emotional and creative storytelling element? That question's from Sarah.
You see, Sarah will come back to the technical again, which is as it should be.
Well,
I would say absolutely categorically that the technical stuff needs to come first. So I first worry about the how I'm going to capture something in terms of light, number one. That's whether I'm going to use natural light or I'm going to have to light it. And I make a plan. And once I know what my plan is and how I'm going to execute, if you like, then I can put my soul energy into emotion and storytelling. And I even tout now, this was really important to be clear. I think I've noticed over the years a lot of photographers worry about the speed at which they're working. They feel like to them, a minute, which is a minute to the client, feels like 10 minutes to the client. It doesn't. And just don't be afraid to be very clear with your client and say, just chat amongst yourselves. I just need to sort out my exposure, or I just need to make a plan, or this is complex. Can you just give me a minute? And as long as you give them permission to not just stare at you or hold the smile or hold the pose, then they won't notice at all, and they'll be quite happy to have those relaxing moments in between. So the minute I then start to, if you like, direct in any way or request energy from them, I am not thinking about the technical anymore. Because if you rush that and you're trying to do both because you feel like you should be, something's going to be wrong. You're going to have your shutter speed wrong. Something will be off and you won't get the results that you need. But I think it's a real lesson to be able to slow things down, tell them that you are doing something that doesn't involve them, and then asking for their energy when you're ready.
That's a really good point about telling your client basically stand at ease, because I have witnessed somebody continuing to grin at the photographer
Always.
while the photographer's clearly doing something else, and you can see that grin getting harder and harder, and then suddenly the camera's up and they're taking a photo and it looks terrible.
And it's gone. They've literally lost all momentum and all that, because you really only get a couple of seconds of natural before anybody goes into kind of that rigor hold. And I think a lot of photographers are so immersed in the technical that they lose sight of how that feels to the client. They rush.
Yeah.
And I rushed it in the early days, and then you get back and you'd realise you've made some stupid error, some basic, you haven't checked your shutter speed on a longer lens, whatever it is, and then you're off. And, it's never as long as it feels to you, ever.
Does it get easier over the years with practice?
Yeah, I just say it's like getting in a car and driving. For us, we really largely don't think at all about the technical. Doesn't mean I don't always check, but this last wedding was particularly tough because, I was really having to push flash, really push it. And so there was a lot of thinking involved at speed. So what that I hope is telling all of you, that don't ever think everybody's just got it. Good photographers are still thinking, and if then, and as they should be, it's a skill. It's not something that you don't have 1 minute and you have the next. It's constantly something. We all have off days. Let's also be honest about that. There are days I find it tougher to shoot than other days. And that's just could be from a personal reasons, health reasons, whatever reasons. Some days I have to work harder than others.
Yeah. I guess there's lots of changes, variability because of the venue as well, particularly if it's a new one that you've not been to before.
I think I get asked that often, actually, questions like that about worrying about shooting a venue that you've never shot before. And actually what I would say to people is that was me in the early days. And in fact, I would go and I would do recce's and I'd make plans. And honestly, I don't think that's healthy, because things happen that are outside your control. So the best thing you can do is be as confident as you can to deliver professional standard imagery under any circumstances, so that if you suddenly can't go outside because the weather's bad, or you suddenly can't shoot in the room you thought you could shoot in, you don't go into meltdown. You just think, fine, I'm just going to make a different plan. And actually what Brent and I do day in, day out is problem solve, and we problem solve on the spot, and really that's your job, I think. And so all the arsenal that you can have to problem solve fast and well will make you a better photographer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's about having all those sort of like tools in your bag, isn't it? So one problem, we'll get that, we'll do this.
Totally. And I think that's it. We always take so much more kit than we need, and I'm never someone to overuse it if I don't need to, but I like to know it's there.
Yeah. So your final number, please.
Well, I guess there's that 10.
Okay, let's go for number 10. How do you manage all of the aspects of your business, or do they all just mesh seamlessly? That question's from Yanida.
I don't think they mesh seamlessly. I wish they did. Okay, so I don't know what the stats are, but I know that I shoot less than 10% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously then take out the post-production element. It still tells you that there's an enormous amount of time spent running a business. And over the years, and this has definitely been with the help of my husband, Brent, but we have streamlined and automated as much as we can. And there is software constantly appearing that is helping with that process. And I honestly think that all the software, like any software, takes a long time to say set up or learn, that there is a time investment up front, but that is massively time saving long term. So for example, I'm still a huge fan of Studio Ninja, and I'm constantly updating it and thinking, gosh, I could add that into the workflow, or I could rewrite that email to make it better. So I don't know what to do without Studio Ninja, to be perfectly frank. And then we use software for accounting and everything. I think now the newest thing on the horizon for us is actually AI. Mm-hmm. And we are using AI. I get asked that a lot now. And for me, it's been about culling and the initial, what I'd call the grunt edit, which I used to send off anyway for a wedding, certainly. It's problematic for me because I'm a complete control freak and a bit of a perfectionist. So it's not easy, but it is without question time saving. But I've still got the controls very much geared towards personal input. But I am trying always to be more efficient, and that's what I would say to all of you. Otherwise, you will slightly lose the will to live, and it will drain you of your personal life.
Yeah. Well, now you're down in Cornwall and you've got this wonderful community around you and the beach just down the road. Do you find it easier to let go? You've got that draw.
Yeah, totally. And I think what we found, Brent and I are complete water babies, is that when we had downtime, we weren't necessarily in a place where we could make the most of it. So we've moved somewhere where we can do what we love doing very fast. And I think that's, we after being so long in this industry and knowing that we give up so much in terms of a lot of other people's personal lives and downtime, weekends and everything, that was critical for us because we just didn't have the balance right at all. So yeah, if we still shoot weekends, that's fine. Now we know we can go to the beach in the evening. Really what I would say is make running the business and the time you don't spend shooting as efficient and automated as you possibly can.
Make it work for you, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Well, Kate, thank you so much for answering all those questions. I'm really looking forward to seeing you at the photography show.
Yeah, I can't wait. And just to reiterate, if we can, in any way help the community and, be able to do this in person with people, then let us know. So we'd be very happy to.
That would be great. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the SheClicks Women in Photography podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. You'll find links to Kate's website and social media channels in the show notes. Special thanks to everyone who sent in a question. I'll be back with another episode soon, so please subscribe to the show on your favourite podcast platform and tell all your friends and followers about it. You'll also find SheClicks on Facebook, X, Instagram and YouTube if you search for SheClicksNet. So until next time, enjoy your photography.